I'm going to proclaim to you. That's Paul. And you know where he is? He's in Athens. Now, I want you to look at this picture here. This is a hill that's in Athens today. You see that object that looks like a plaque? So the second picture will show you this plaque. Good. That's the sermon that Paul gave in Athens about this unknown God. You know, Greek has always felt that they were the most intelligent, the brightest, the best when it came to thinking and all. You know, we get that from all of those famous philosophers and stuff. And Greece has hundreds of idol gods, literally hundreds. And they had hundreds of idol gods when Paul came there. And so Paul is there now looking at these idol gods, and he's talking to them about this altar that says to the unknown God. So let's take a look at this. In Acts 17:28, it says, "For in him," this is Paul talking, "we live and move and have our being, as also some of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring." I don't know if you knew this, but Paul knew the story of how those altars got there. Now, this happened 600 years before Christ came to earth, those altars in Athens. And Paul knew about it. And that's why in this text in Acts 17:28, he's mentioning poets. Who are you talking about? He's talking about those individuals who were considered to be philosophers and stuff, who had a relationship with the living God that affected Athens directly. The Bible commentary says Paul used citations from their own ancient poets to underline the point that God as creator is the source of all human life. The sermon that he gave that's on that plaque, here is the outline. Acts 17:23-24 says, is the discussion of the ignorance of pagan worship. That's on this plaque. Acts 17:25 and 26 is the creator God being the object of worship. This is Paul speaking to them. Acts 17:26-27 is God's relationship to humanity, he's telling them. Acts 17:28 and 29 tells them that the idols of gold, silver, and stone as objects of the creator, they're all false, he says. In Acts 17:30 and 31, which is Paul's conclusion, he says, it's time for you to end your ignorance. But let me tell you the story that happened 600 years before Christ came. 600 years before Paul went to Athens. 600 years before those in Athens were suffering from a pandemic that was killing a lot of their citizens. And they had prayed to all of their idol gods, all hundreds of them. And the pandemic got worse. So then they heard that someone knew about an unknown God, didn't have a name, that maybe this unknown God could help. So I want you to look at this next picture. You see that? Epimenides. He's one of the philosophers that Athens called on to talk about this unknown God, to have this unknown God save Athens. Listen to this. Tell us, what advice do you have about why we have this pandemic? They're talking to epidemics. Our numerous sacrifices have availed nothing. Apparently, the general understanding was that Athens was cursed because of its unfair treatment to a specific group of people who had surrendered with the understanding that they would be given amnesty. But instead of giving them amnesty, they destroyed those people. Several hundred idol gods were worshipped, but none had delivered the city from the pandemic that was causing the death of many.